The writer Anne Lamott, whom I love, said she asked a wise friend not long ago, "Is there any meaning in what happened in the slaughter at Sandy Hook?" And he said, "Not yet. Of course." So I choose to look at the victims of that unspeakable horror for some guidance, some way for us to move forward that moves forward and at the same time honors them. And I think of Jesse Lewis, age 6, the third beautiful face on that wall from me. His last written words on a chalkboard at home were these 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. His spelling was that of a 6-year-old, but the words were clear. His mother took those 3 words to be a call to nurture, healing, love. And so she established a foundation that's trying to teach children to choose love over anger. She wrote, "This whole tragedy started with an angry thought. I pictured the shooter as a little boy with this one angry thought in his head, which is totally normal, except that he didn't have the tools to deal with it. He decided to blame his parents, his teachers, the students. He became a victim of his own blame, and I believe prolonged victimization leads to rage. But a thought can be changed." So her mantra now is choose one loving thought instead of one angry thought today. Something simple as a child is simple. I think when it comes to dealing with the unspeakable, simple is probably best. Now, many of you know who Ram Dass is. He was born a Jew. He's also a Hindu, so he calls himself a Hindu. Whatever he is, he's a great teacher. And he says this about our life here on earth. He says, ultimately, we are just walking each other home. I love how simple that is, too. Some years ago, he wrote a letter to a family he did not know who had just lost their daughter, Rachel, through rape and murder. And I want to close with just a part of that letter, which is all about nurturing, healing, love. Rachel finished her brief work on earth and left the stage in a manner that leaves those of us left behind with a cry of agony in our hearts. Is anyone strong enough to stay conscious through such teachings as you, her parents, are receiving? Probably very few. I cannot assuage your pain with any words, nor should I. For your pain is Rachel's legacy to you. Not that she or I would inflict such pain by choice, but there it is, and it must burn its purifying way to completion. You may emerge from this ordeal more dead than alive, for something within you dies when you bear the unbearable. And it is only in that dark night of the soul that you'll prepare to see as God sees and to love as God loves. Now is the time to let your grief find expression, no false strength. Now is the time to sit quietly and speak to Rachel and thank her for being with you these few years and encourage her to go on with her work, knowing that you will grow in compassion and wisdom from this experience. In my heart, I know that you and she will meet again and again and recognize the many ways in which you have known each other. And when you meet, you will, in a flash, know what now is not given to you to know. Your rational minds can never understand what has happened, but your hearts, if you can keep them open to God, will find their own intuitive way. Rachel came through you to do her work on earth. Now her soul is free, and the love that you can share with her is invulnerable to the whims of changing time and space. In that deep love, include me too.
The largest market for guns, ammunition, and accessories in the world, worth over $12 billion, is not in the drug war-torn streets of Mexico, nor in the pirate dens and militia-controlled streets of Somalia. It's not in the tribal regions of Pakistan. It's not in North Korea, Iran, or Iraq. The largest consumers of small arms in the world are civilians in the United States. Collectively, we own 310 million guns. That's almost half of all the small arms in the entire world. Every year we add millions to the stockpile. We are inundated with weapons. Even the US military and police combined can only muster a pathetic 4 million small arms. The civilian population outguns them by a factor of 75 to 1. It is a market so valuable to the manufacturers of small arms, companies like Smith & Wesson, Glock, Colt, Beretta, and so on, that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars annually to persuade us that gun ownership is not only a right, it is a duty. They openly pay for legislation that enshrines vigilantism and paranoia. They banned research on gun violence. They have adopted the Second Amendment as a marketing slogan. They have purchased enough influence in the legislative bodies of this country to keep the market unregulated and themselves unaccountable for the deadly impact of their products. It should be obvious, despite the assurances of the gun industry's marketing managers and lobbyists, that all those guns do not make us safer. All those guns cause over 32,000 deaths annually in our society. A number of deaths per capita that is proportionally greater by a factor of 10 than any comparable developed country in the world. The reason that number isn't higher is partially due to the hard work of our emergency room doctors and nurses. They keep 77,000 Americans from dying from gunshot wounds, mercifully keeping some tabulated as horrifically injured and not dead. Some researchers defying the gun industry took the trouble of adding up all that mayhem. As a society, the treatment, aftermath, and consequences of gun violence cost us an annual total of $153 billion, a cost that is borne collectively by all of us and not deducted from the profit margins of the gun industry. The dead and injured, like the guns that maimed them, are strewn across our social landscape fairly evenly, excepting, of course, the extremely wealthy. This year, we have had to count 200 children and the 21st graders at Sandy Hook Elementary School amongst them. The children at Sandy Hook were killed by a semi-automatic rifle, easily picked up in a suburban home by a mentally ill 20-year-old. He was able to fire 155 bullets within 5 minutes using an AR-15. All the children in Sandy Hook took between 3 and 11 high-powered bullets. Noah Posner, aged 6, took 11 bullets. His mother, Veronique, insisted on an open casket at his funeral. She also purposefully brought the governor to look at it because she said, if there's ever a piece of legislation that comes across his desk, I needed it to be real for him. It was real. Noah's mouth and jaw were blown away. A cloth covered that part of his face. Most of his left hand was gone. The governor wept. When it was time to sign legislation, he remembered. This may remind some of you of the courageous actions of the mother of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black boy hideously beaten to death in 1955 after he allegedly whistled at a white woman. His mother, Mamie Till, famously insisted on an open coffin at his funeral, which drew tens of thousands of mourners. There was just no way I could describe what was in that box, she said at the time. No way. I just wanted the world to see. That funeral changed American society profoundly. Veronique Posner explained her decision to view and put on view her son's body. I owed it to him as his mother, the good, the bad, and the ugly, she said. It's not up to me to say I'm only going to look at you and deal with you when you're alive, that I am going to block out the reality of what you look like when you're dead. And as a little boy, you have to go underground. If I'm going to shut my eyes to that, I'm not his mother. I had to bear it. I had to do it, she added. His jawbone was blown away. I just want people to know the ugliness of it, so we don't talk about it abstractly, like these little angels just went to heaven. No, they were butchered. What did we learn from this horror? This year, the makers of the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle cynically manipulated people who have come to think of gun ownership as a political identity into stockpiling these deadly devices and their ammunition, resulting in record profits. The lawmakers in their pockets have passed ever more absurd laws protecting guns, but not people. As a society, though, we have become smarter, with a clearer understanding of what is at stake. A grassroots movement has emerged, ready to confront the gun industry. Gun ownership per household is declining still, as it has for 30 years now. Those remaining gun owners are stockpiling arsenals. It is up to us to demonstrate our resolve to them publicly and openly, as Veronique Posner did. It is up to us to confront those amongst us who are desperately clinging to their weapons and ask them this: are $12 billion in profit for somebody else worth even one of our children's lives?